This is an excerpt from the show that I do called Don't Put a Teat on the Whiskey Bottle. I had an aunt who always said, "Oh, I've had such a terrible day. I'm going to bed with a whiskey bottle and put a teat on it." She never did, of course. However, we did this very long tour of Irma la Douce. And having arrived back, I was in need of work again. I was not yet permanent with the Brooks. I called on everyone to no avail. As a last resort, I contacted the whiplash-tongued Robert Langford, who had also worked for them, but were now doing something for the fearsome Toby Cushlick. He greeted me with surprising charm. Yes, you'll do very well. Toby's presenting The Irish Actor and his one-man show, The Importance of Being Oscar. I'm to manage him, and we need a dresser. You always looked after your costumes well. We'll even tour you. His name is Michael McClearmore. A dresser? No matter. I was in work. He's arriving later in the week, and the team will be at the airport to meet him. Here's a program so you don't make an ass of yourself. I studied his biography. Indeed, here was a luminary. Actor, writer, designer, painter, acted with Peggy Ashcroft and Orson Welles, created famous theatres in Ireland, toured the world with his companies, a celebrated raconteur and favourite of ambassadors, dukes and kings, and welcome at their tables. I was thoroughly alarmed. On the appointed day at the airport, there was the press in abundance, and the Irish Guard, all wearing green carnations, the badge of Oscar Wilde. Toby pushed me firmly into the background. She was never one to push forward an underling. The plane had arrived, and into the VIP lounge, amidst the popping of flashbulbs, was ushered Butterball of a man in what was quite clearly a jet-black toupee, and it seemed extravagantly maquillaged. He began answering questions in a dark velvet voice with Irish overtones. During a pause, a journalist-cum-critic lady asked a question. She was wearing Minnie Mouse shoes, lisle stockings, her hair in a bun, and had a large hooked nose. Peering sharply over her spectacles, she said, "Mr. McClearmore, you're doing the life of Oscar Wilde. What are your personal opinions on the subject of homosexuality?" Barely missing a beat, he replied, "Madam, it is the natural and understandable refuge of a sensitive male from women such as you." The following day I was at the Playhouse Theatre waiting outside the dressing room for the arrival of himself, when I heard coming up the rather steep stairs this liquid chocolate voice saying, "Oh, God, Aubrey, these steps are too much for Magda. She can't take it. Is this Everest to be challenged every time a poor bedraggled performer leaves the stage? It must perforce lead to a breathless evening in the theatre." And round the corner he came, a frightening toupee and heavily made up, I assumed, for the dress rehearsal. "Michel," said Robert Langford. Where was Aubrey? "This is John, your dresser." "Ah, my dresser." A sharp glance from heavily cold lids, a sigh, and then a twinkle and a very naughty one. "And what a pretty little girl you are, too, but never mind. You've nothing to fear from this bedraggled artiste. You see, when I was young, I always did the favour to people with whom I went to bed. And I still like to do the favour, so you can imagine what I have to go to bed with to do that." We retired to the dressing room, and he closed the door firmly. "Now, Hortense, for that is what I've named you, I shall pay you £3 each week to augment what is no doubt the princely salary you receive from this management. Your first duty is to keep this door firmly locked against the intrusion of such as Mr. Robert Langford. I'm Irish, you know, and I have second sight, and find Robert faintly sinister, and definitely not to be admitted to the secrets of the boudoir. And what about Aubrey? Toby? Well, I don't think she could make those stairs without the aid of a broomstick, and something tells me she wouldn't like to be seen with one. As for after-show visitors, certainly not until we've completed our off-the-stage toilette. And now, Hortense, while we lay out the necessary implements of transformation, I shall school you into one or two other requirements. One of these was to meet him at the edge of the stage after the first curtain call with a gin and ginger ale for him to quaff, before striding on for the second curtain call. If there is a second call, Hortense, if indeed there's a first, the audience having drifted out one by one like wraiths into the darkness, leaving this poor strolling player to brave the mists of darkest Africa all on his own. No, Hortense, that must not happen. If it does, we shall, you and I, wander into the streets of the city, which I have it on good authority are paved with gold. We shall make our fortunes. Even better, we shall visit a gold mine and plunge headfirst into the abyss and meet Mephistopheles and come to a happy arrangement to have future performances filled to the brim. No doubt he and Toby are charitably acquainted. So there, nothing to fret about. Now let us descend Mount Everest and discover what hazards are to befall us at this rehearsal. 'Twill be a late, late night, methinks. I noticed an African maiden at the stage door. So beautiful. Eyes, two detonated moons in the midnight of the flesh. Ah, Africa. Of course, by now I adored him. I soon learned who the mysterious Aubrey was, an allusion to Mrs. Patrick Campbell's husband. Mrs. Pat, of course, was the celebrated actress who often referred to her late husband Aubrey when in extremis. "Oh, Aubrey, what am I to do?" Well, I think she loved him very much because she'd said, the deep peace of the marriage bed after the hurly-burly of the chaise longue. Well, MacLearmore and I became firm friends, and he then required me to come daily and dress him at the Carlton Hotel. Extra remuneration, no objections and not a word to the management. Of course, he didn't really want to be dressed. He wanted an audience to listen and laugh at his wicked observations and irrepressible humour. Daily luncheon in the Carlton Grill was an unforgettable experience. Oh, do stop laughing so extravagantly, Hortense, or the waiters will say, "There goes that dreadful Mrs. MacLearmore and her inebriated French maid." I asked him once if he'd played Oedipus. "Oh, yes, indeed. I thought I was quite wonderful. But at the dress rehearsal, Hilton, my partner, raised me to the ground and said, 'Michel, do try to remember that Oedipus was a Greek king and not an Italian fishwife.'"
Did you have an encounter with the Sardins?
Yes, indeed. The lady who said, "Mr. MacLearmore, what are your personal opinions on the subject of homosexuality?" and wore lisle stockings and all that was Dora Sowden, the critic. Her husband was Lewis Sowden. I think he was the editor of the Daily Mail, was it? And he wrote The Kimberley Train. And as I say, it was the first of the protest plays about all that. The next protest play was Try for White, which was a Cape Town production that Leonard Schuck did, and that had Nigel Hawthorne and Heather Lloyd-Jones in it. And we had me and Jennifer Grey, Robert Langford's wife that came out, and an actress called Anne Aldred. I don't know what happened to her. She's evaporated some years ago. Sunk without trace, as my favorite actress, Helen Bourne, is my favorite person I've ever acted with. She used to say, "Darling, what happened to so-and-so?" And I'd say, "I don't know." "Yes, no, it's very strange. She seems to have sunk without trace."